It's called accountability. After raising $90 million in 2020, Black Lives Matter Group now has $42 million in assets. I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. According to a published article, Global Online Money. I think I'll read this article in its entirety. This is a follow-up to a story I did about Black Lives Matter some time ago, entitled Black Lives Matter, What is Really Going On? This would be part 2. And I quote, within the tragic whirlwind year of 2020, with racial justice protests prompted by the killing of black men and women by cops, the Black Lives Matter international community basis raised $90 million, a lot of it small donations from rank-and-file supporters of its trigger. A latest tax submitting from the group reveals that by the center of the final year, greater than half of that cash had been granted to Native organizations or spent on consultants and actual property, leaving the inspiration with $42 million in property. The Muses funds have been subject to criticism from each side of the political spectrum. Many Native teams, which can be a part of the Black Lives Matter motion, have referred to as for extra transparency and a higher position in determination making, in addition to extra money for the organizations led by activists on the bottom. On the identical time, opponents of the broader trigger have tried to painting spending by one of many groups' founders as proof of widespread mismanagement in a fashion that seems meant to impugn the trigger in addition to the group. Nobody anticipated the inspiration to develop at this tempo and to this scale. Cicely Homosexual, chair of the Board of Administrators, mentioned in a press release on Tuesday, now we're taking time to construct environment-friendly infrastructure to run the biggest black abolitionist philanthropic group to ever exist in the United States. Final month, New York Journal reported that funds raised by the inspiration have been used to purchase a home in California for practically $6 million in money in October 2020. The tax submitting reveals property price $5.5 million held by a Delaware firm. Figuring out details about the corporate is just not being launched. Right here, resulting from scrutiny and safety consideration and threats to Black Lives Matter Global National Foundation's management, workers, and creators, the shape mentioned. The discharge of Inside Income Service Kind 990 for the Black Lives Matter International community basis was the primary time the group supplied an official accounting of its funds. It's also a delayed snapshot. The shape covers the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2021. Practically a year in the past. A lot of the skin crucial consideration on the group has been centered on Patrice Cullors, one of many founders of Black Lives Matter. Ms. Collier stepped down as government director of the inspiration in May 2021. In an interview with the related press on the time, she decried right-wing assaults that attempted to discredit my character. A member of the family, Paul Cullors, was listed on the tax kind as receiving fee for skilled safety companies amounting to $840,993. I believe they're doing what a lawyer on this state of the affairs would advise them to do, which is to open as you presumably will be and be correct as you presumably will be, mentioned by Lloyd Hitoshi Meyer, a regulation professor on the College of Notre Dame, who made a specialty of nonprofits. They're attempting to be clear. They're attempting to proper the shape. There's nonetheless work to do. In 2021, the inspiration launched its personal report, not a compulsory federal tax submitting, however, a voluntary accounting of its funds, by which it mentioned that it raised $90 million in 2020. with the typical donation being $30.64. At the movement, the group mentioned that it spent $8.4 million on working bills, whereas distributing $21.7 million in grants to about 30 organizations and to 11 Black Lives Matter chapters across the nation. On the tax kind, the Inspiration mentioned that for the overlapping fiscal year, it obtained contributions and grants totaling $760.9 million with complete expenditures of $37.7 million. These bills included grants of $500,000 every to Black Lives Matter teams in Boston, Philadelphia, Detroit, and elsewhere. Close quote. Personal commentary. When you are the leader of a national grassroots Black organization fighting injustice against white supremacy, you have to make sure from the rip, as we say on the street, from the rip, you've got to have your house in order. And accountability is important because you know they're going to come after you. They're going to try to find every little thing that they can. Nevertheless, they themselves are breaking the law every single day. What was it called? It was called a bailout during the Obama administration. We call it welfare. Never surrender, never quit.